I'm so excited to share this list that I made. Happy birthday to Guru Jagat. Guru Jagat passed away in 2021, and many of you are here because you knew her, and she was my teacher and my mentor and my boss and my spiritual teacher and my business boss and my mentor in so many ways, as she was for some of you. And some of you did not meet her and you've just heard of her, and some of you have found her after she passed away. But we all have this connection through this golden chain lineage of Kundalini. And you should check out her YouTube channel because she has like 300 videos, well organized, and incredible teachings. So check it out. But I wanted to share 10 epic life teachings that I learned from her. All right, y'all ready? There's so many, but I was like, let's just make a list of 10. Today's her birthday, and so we're celebrating her being like the most prolifically creative, positive, and badass person I've ever met. Really incredible person. Okay, number 1 of the 10 epic life teachings from the great yogi Guru Jagat is crossing the crisis. Now, this is a yogic teaching from this Kundalini lineage, but she's said it to me in such a way that it landed, and I hold it now. Okay, so the teaching is that we all must cross the crisis, and the crisis exists to be crossed. So whatever's happening for you that seems like the crisis, the problem, the issue, what's in front of you, the crisis exists to be crossed. We all must cross the crisis. The crisis created itself so that you could cross it. On the playing field of this planet, it's to work out your karma. So if you have, whatever, it's to work out your karma, which means there are lessons we need to learn that we haven't learned yet before we reach sort of the top of the metaphorical mountain, before we reach enlightenment, whatever it is. The crisis created itself so that you could cross it. And when you cross something, you achieve something, you have an attainment in you that you then can share with others. So there's no actually such thing as really negative circumstances, because on this planet, you either have a blessing in front of you or you have a challenge. You have a crisis or a challenge. Challenge and crisis exist to be crossed. When you cross it, you have a blessing. So all roads lead to blessings, and that's the teaching of crossing the crisis. Isn't that really helpful? So there's no problems. Just cross the crisis. We came here to do this. Everything's going to be fine. That's number 1. Number 2 teaching, probably going to be the least popular teaching, but let's get it out of the way, is Guru Yoga. Number 2 life-changing teachings from the great yogi of Guru Jagat is Guru Yoga. Guru Jagat practice Guru Yoga. Let's briefly discuss what that is. How was Guru Jagat able to get so much done in such a short amount of time and live such an extraordinary life? Guru Jagat practiced Guru Yoga. And I will read these words to you of what that is. This is from Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. He is a high attained master recognized in the Buddhism lineage. We are not Buddhists, but Buddhism runs through this lineage of yoga. And if that is confusing to you, it's supposed to be. But if you look at the YouTube video called Love of Lineage by Mundave, it explains to you all about this lineage and how Buddhism weaves through it, okay? This is the quote from Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. What's Guru Yoga? Guru Jagat practiced Guru Yoga. The literal meaning of Guru Yoga is union with the teacher's nature. To blend your mind with the teacher's mind is the most profound of all practices and the shortest path to realization. It's the life force of the path and the one practice that includes all others. And it was through relying on a spiritual teacher that all the bodhisattvas of the past generated the mind of enlightenment and reached perfection. Guru Yoga is the fastest path. Guru Yoga is not for everyone. So this teaching is Guru Yoga and mentorship. Mentorship and being coachable. It takes a very high caliber to have a great mentor, and more so to do something with it. So the most successful people in the world had great mentorship. The athletes who changed the face of history in their sport and whatever they did, they were extremely coachable. They had great coaches and they were extremely coachable. If you don't think you're one of the people who's supposed to change the face of the planet, you're incorrect. You're here listening to this for a reason. And this lineage is really powerful for that. But Guru Yoga is putting yourself in the mind of the teacher, and you must always have, if you're so fortunate, a physical teacher alive on the planet who can coach you. That's what a guru is. It's an illuminating sound. It's not like a holy person in India with a big turban. Yes, but as we've seen, like many, billionaire business guys have business gurus, right? So that's their mentorship. But in the spiritual teachings, you also need a guide. If you want to reach higher and higher up in consciousness, you need a guide, and that energy is transferred from heart of the teacher to heart of the student. Guru Jagat passed away before her teacher in 2021. That was shocking, unexpected, wild. She was young. And now her teacher is my teacher. He was before by default of the energy chain, but immediately I turned to him. His name is Hari Jivan. You can go visit him in LA or study with him online. Okay, but immediately I turned to where the energy is in my lineage. So some people have taken sort of two routes since Guru Jagat passed away. One is we will continue to mourn her, and the other is we will let her live through us. So learn from, if you can even go on her Instagram, and she probably has 1,000 posts about her teacher. She was extremely devoted and very open about it. She didn't keep it a secret. She loved to talk about it, and she just loved her teacher. And that gave her, in many of our opinions, everything. So please look into the power of Guru Yoga. Obviously, I could go on forever about it. Okay, crossing the crisis, Guru Yoga and mentorship. Number 3 teaching is creativity begets creativity. Guru Jagat was prolifically creative, and one of the things she shared with us is that there's never a shortage of creativity. Once you open the valve and you start to let the creativity move through you, it just pushes you to be more creative and more creative and more creative. And it's this never-ending spiral. So people are kind of mentally bankrupt and alienated and lonely at this time on the planet. And creativity is the healing force. So it's the richest thing you can do for yourself. She talked about how people were suffering, in LA where she lived. Everyone has all the money, they have all the things, they have all the beauty, they have this, that, and people were so miserable. But using this force of creativity in everything you do is what gives you life. And we're going to talk about that in several different ways in this 10-pointed list here. But that's what fuels you, and that's what gives you prosperity, and that's what makes you generous, and that's what makes you fulfilled. So creativity begets creativity, meaning creativity accesses more creativity. We're no longer in a time where to be creative you have to suffer, the artist has to suffer or whatever. It's not true anymore. Creativity is just something you'd open the door a little bit, and then it opens another door and another door and another door, and you bring things to the planet that nobody else can bring. That's the power of creativity. So there's no shortage of it. It just gets more and more and more. All right. The 4th thing is something she called the Lakshmi siddhi, which is generosity. The Lakshmi siddhi is what Guru Jagat called it. Siddhi is not like my name is Siri, or like siddhi is a superpower. The Lakshmi siddhi, Guru Jagat totally had. The Lakshmi siddhi is we would be somewhere, and then she would walk into a little shop, and nobody would be in the shop, and then suddenly there would be 30 people in the shop. And it was this sort of thing where you bring prosperity wherever you go. Your energy just brings prosperity. And she just loved being generous, and would walk in somewhere and fall in love with the shop owner, or fall in love with the piece of clothing, or fall in love with the item, and just put so much love into the moment of being generous and wanting to just support them, or be in the restaurant and then wanting to support the restaurant, and then wanting to help everyone around her. And everyone thought that she was so rich because she had the Lakshmi siddhi of extreme generosity. So generous. Everyone thought she was rolling deep, which was not really the case. Do you really think yoga studio owners are making a lot of money? Similar thing happened to me, which I thought was a huge honor. When somebody thought that of me in New York, I was like, oh, great. No, I'm not rich. But she had that aura of just being so generous. If you knew her personally, she was one of the most generous people. How can I help you? How can I support you? Let me give this thing to you. And nobody goes broke from sharing. Nobody goes broke from being generous. And I remind myself this every time I tighten up a little bit about wanting to share something. It's like, get over yourself. That's never going to happen, So she was extremely generous with all of her employees and with all of her students and with everyone she came into contact with. And that's the Lakshmi siddhi, is that similar to creativity, it just keeps flowing. So prosperity is a flow, right? That's why they have all sorts of terms in finance that sound like they're talking about water, because money has to flow. Similarly, the Lakshmi, goddess of prosperity, it has to keep flowing. So if you're being of service, that's how you will be content and happy. You'll be of service. So, you're exchanging goods and services, and then you're constantly giving and giving and giving. You're participating in the flow of economy, the flow of love, the flow of success. It's all very much a flow. And that's the Lakshmi siddhi. Give and give more. Okay? So good, right? The fifth teaching is the yoga of relationship, which is devotional practices. Can you make it so I can hear the mic? Amazing boyfriend and camera guy. Thank you. Speaking of the yoga of relationship, the yoga of relationship is the fifth teaching here. The devotional practice of relationship is probably the teaching that changed my life the most of all the teachings of life, how to live, that she shared. Because nowhere else on the planet are they teaching you how to relate to relationships this way. You just see what you see on television, and you see what your parents did, and you think that's how it should be. But you don't know that there's such thing as divine union that wants to happen through you. And a relationship is a devotional act, and you want to lean into love. And just, a pro tip, I'm not a pro, but a tip for anyone who's in a relationship or wants to be in a relationship, people just want to feel good. This works for all your relationships. You need to make others feel good. You need to uplift others, especially somebody who you're growing a life with, in a partnership with. Your job is to uplift them when they can't uplift themselves, and when they can, either way. Your job is not to point out all the insecurities or weaknesses that you perceive. Your job is to uplift and open their heart so that you can create this divine union, which can happen. You don't have to have your twin flame. You don't have to be on your highest destiny, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you create a divine, loving union with another physical human, you're anchoring in this cosmic love consciousness to the planet and changing the grid of the earth. This is real work. This is not for the faint of heart. They say relationship is the highest yoga, meaning it the hardest. Okay, so it is yoga, and especially as a yogi or someone listening now, whether it's in a relationship with your relatives or your coworkers or your clients or your students or your children or your lover and beloved. Your job is to uplift. Your job is to show them their higher self. And that is what Guru Jagat was so good at. I just have to say, like, sometimes she'd be talking about somebody and we'd be like, oh, really? She'd be like on the mic and she'd mention somebody and she like, so-and-so, the most prolifically creative, amazing artist I've ever met. You know, she'd say that, or whatever she'd say about some person in the room. And we'd be like, huh. You know, because you just see someone and you project your insecurities, your fears on them, and you think, oh, they're all right or whatever. And she would just see them and she would just see their potential and say it out loud and call it out of them. And we all have that creative, positive capacity. That's the yoga of relationship. All right, 4 more teachings. The 6th teaching is eat death for breakfast. Guru Jagat made plastic lighters with this written on it. Eat death for breakfast at Guru Jagat. Like, you don't know her, you're like, what the eat death for breakfast was one of her mottos, and it means if you live in New York City and it's the middle of winter, you wake up the ass crack of the morning and you walk into a cold shower and you take a cold shower and then you come out of the shower and you say, nobody can with me now. That's what she would say. Nobody can with me now because I've literally done the most miserable thing I could possibly do. I took a cold shower in the middle of winter before the sun rose, which is, you know, yogic teaching, Ishnan, the power of cold showers. It's a whole science. But the point of eat death for breakfast is, I don't know, she'd have to tell you, but really it's doing the hardest thing first thing in the morning and stomaching that and having the courage right away. Just facing your fear immediately head on right away. There is no more time. We're already dead. She used to say, if I worry too much, I'm just like, chill, girl, you're already dead. She knew, that she had this capacity and that maybe her time was short. But we're already dead, okay? So face the fear head on, right thing in the morning. Eat death for breakfast is very punk rock. Okay, 3 more teachings. The 7th epic life teaching from the great yogi Guru Jagat is the power of the woman. Woman is a privilege and an honor, being a woman. Woman holds the caliber for the entire planet. Whether, however you identify, if you were born in the body of a woman, we have a responsibility. So the teaching is being a woman is a privilege and an honor and the highest incarnation you can receive. And the common theme with many women is that they complain. We love to complain. Complain, why me? Why do I have to do better? Why do I have to be the first to do this? Why do I have to start this? Why do I have to forgive him for that? Why do I have to, be the responsible one? Why do they get to do this when I have to whatever? This why me? Why do I have to have this all-seeing eye? I'm not the only woman who can see like a spot of dirt on the floor and no one else can see, right? Woman has this immense sensory capacity that makes you very sensitive and very strong. The power of the woman, 16 times more powerful than the man, is either destructive or creative. And it's our responsibility to flip it out of the destructive current and be very positive. Woman, let me just say that again so we understand, holds the caliber for the whole planet, which means first and foremost, you're responsible for you. And then you're responsible for everyone around you, especially if you're like the mother, you're responsible for the whole family. If you're in the relationship, you're responsible for the man. Woman contains man. But the caliber of the whole earth. So, no big deal. But this is a woman, woman gets to decide if we're going to have more world wars. Woman gets to decide the state of the future. Woman gets to teach the children differently and create them differently in their womb by vibrating in a different frequency. So this is the power that we hold, and it's a privilege, and it's an honor, and it's a responsibility. And this day forward, let us leave behind any victim consciousness we have around why me, why do I have to do this, why do I have to be the bigger person, la 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 la. It's an honor to have this insight, wisdom, and compassion to be the bigger person. So to put your energy in the positive direction rather than the destructive, sometimes you have to swing. Like I have a stronger negative mind than a positive mind. Most people do. Some people are really positive, and then it gets them into trouble. But you want to swing a little bit farther than you need to think sometimes. You know, just really pie in the sky vision of what can happen and take action on it. Because that's kind of the audacity you have to create positivity and create this new world as a woman. Okay? It's an honor, and it's a privilege. The 8th teaching from the epic life teachings by the great yogi Guru Jagat is happiness is a revolutionary act. Happiness is a revolutionary act. Happiness is everyone's birthright. Happiness is a biochemical state. And happiness is not related to your circumstances. Happiness comes from contentment, and contentment always comes out of service. That's the yogic teaching. But happiness is a contentment state that happens regardless of the ups and downs of life. Every reaction has an opposite. Every action has a reaction and then has an opposite. Like the polarities are always swinging. When you get something really great in life, then there'll be a down, and then it'll be up, and then it'll be down. And this is how life is designed. Happiness is a contentment that lies through this. And if you're looking, how can I get that? How can I get that through line no matter all circumstances? It's to be of service. And there are certain ways that you can be of service that are more in your destiny than others. So you can tune into like, what do I really want to do that's going to fulfill me? But it's always a serviceful act. And it's everyone's birthright. And we start to see other people who just have different states than us, and we think that we're never going to have it, or we think that it's not for us or whatever. But it's everyone's birthright, and it's a revolutionary act. And just like everything else on this list, we should take it as a responsibility to be positive and to move towards happiness and to live in happiness as an example for others. A great example is when Mahatma Gandhi was released from prison, and he asked if he could stay a few more days. He was released from prison. He asked if he could stay a few more days because he was teaching a course on meditation, and he wanted to finish it up. And they were like, if you stay, you have to pay the nightly fee. We don't need you anymore. And I think he stayed, and he finished up his meditation course. But that was the level of his consciousness, that he was in prison and he felt free. So that's the contentment. And why? I mean, he was a very high realized being, but notice the service. He was teaching a meditation course, right? He had to finish it. That gave him contentment. So that's the happiness, a revolutionary act. And then, of course, the 9th teaching would be humor. Because Guru Jagat laughed more than anyone that I have ever met, and I'm still trying to laugh as much as she laughed. And you have to laugh at yourself in order to enjoy yourself. You really have to laugh at yourself. And we talk about in the yoga teachings, first person, second position, third position, this omnipresent view. But you have to look at your life from multiple perspectives to see what's really going on. You can't just stay in your little world. We really have to get out and look at the eyes of my life from my partner. Look at the eyes of my life from my higher self. Look at the eyes of my life laughing at how silly I am for being so neurotic and uptight about everything. And she just thought this is really funny. Like shit would go down, and she thought it was hilarious. It was always funny. Like it is always funny. You can either freak out or it's funny. One time, like the amount of, it was funny to her, and we'd be pissed. We'd, like, as her employees, like, shit would go down, and then she would laugh out of, like, what else can we do in this moment? Laugh. And we'd be like, how could you laugh at that? Like, we'd be pissed. One time, she was leading a sadhana, we've been chanting for 2.5 hours. We're in the last 15-minute stretch. So it's like 6:15 a.m. or something. She's sitting on this stage. We're in the middle of the forest in Santa Cruz at a retreat center in California. I'm next to her on this side and someone else is over here. I'm chanting, slightly off the stage. There's a speaker on each side of the stage, a fairy. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe me. You could say it was a rodent. I'm fine if you believe that. Okay, but we're in the middle of a fairy forest, and these fairies crawled over me and bit the cable for both of the speakers, and they immediately started to go up in smoke. Everyone's in such a deep meditative state. They can barely realize, is this really happening? They start to catch fire and blow up in smoke, and she just turns to me and she just starts laughing. And I start carrying, the speaker's like half the size of my body. I'm carrying it out of the room as it's catching fire, la la la, and she just stays meditating, and she's laughing because what are we gonna freak out? Everybody, we're meditating. We get the fire out and let the fairies have their way. So, such tricksters. But yeah, so humor, everything is funny, and you're not going to have a good time if you don't incorporate that into everything you do. And it's a sign of a spiritual master. So you'll know I'm doing better when I laugh more. It's a sign of a spiritual master. Hari Jivan's very funny. He's always making jokes. It's a sign of anyone who is a certain state. They're always very funny. The heart is very light. And the final teaching of this epic teachings is community is the salve of emptiness. That's a Guru Jagat quote. Community is the salve of emptiness. And that is why she created yoga centers and community spaces that were open to everyone. And that's why we go live on YouTube for free and charge for other things, is because even, in this weird space where we're not all together, we do have to come together. And it'll open our hearts and help us realize the humanity in everything and enjoy our lives and be fulfilled. It's the salve for the emptiness, which is an epidemic on the planet right now. And I really got to see that when I ran her studio in New York. Just how much people, because we created community, we were loved. It became a holy place because it was a place of community. It became a sacred space. It became, the most important place in many people's lives because it was a community based on higher ideals and higher consciousness and higher thoughts and love and all the good things. So it's very much our responsibility to keep creating community, to offer space, as shit's going down on the planet. So thanks for being here, and thanks for listening to the teachings.